Guys, I'm so excited for this one. Okay, that's better. If you know that voice, you know who's on this week's episode. Hey guys, so I'm so excited for this one. I got to talk with Brittney from Unleash the Archers. She was so great, so funny, and just genuinely a great person. She had some really good things to share, and I hope that you enjoy it. This one was really exciting for me, so enjoy.
You do it. Scott says hi too. First off, one, I love the new video. It was super rad.
Thank you.
How did you go from working in like a choir setting and working on your vocals that way in a very classical sense to like being a front person? And what was that like transition like for you?
Well, it was difficult for sure. I had a band in between Unleash the Archers. It wasn't really, it was just kind of someone had put an ad out on Live Victoria, which was like where all the musicians would go in Victoria whenever they were looking for a new band or looking for members for their band. And someone had said that they were looking for a vocalist. And so I said, okay, sure, yeah, like let's have a few jams or whatever and see how we feel. And I was probably jamming with them for a couple months, but it was really not the style that I was looking for, because it was very much looking for that classical sort of female fronted traditional style. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something more in the kind of Iron Maiden vein of things, Judas Priest, that kind of thing. And so I was just kind of like, you know what, you guys, I just don't think this is the right project for me. But thanks for giving me a shot or whatever. And it really, I think that project helped me to realize though that I wanted to do something else, that I didn't want to use like my classical voice in metal. I just wanted to try something new. And granted, nowadays there's a lot of that and it's not new, but back in those days there was really, you had in this moment maybe Arch Enemy that were the two female fronted metal bands at the time that weren't doing that symphonic opera kind of sound. That was it. Everything else was Nightwish and Within Temptation and just, all of them. So when Scott's band that he was originally in broke up and we decided to start Unleash the Archers, I was searching for my voice for a while. Like I really didn't. The first couple songs that we wrote, they were very sort of classically inspired, but I tried to sing them not that way, and it just, it was just very confused. Really, the music at the beginning was kind of like, oh, I think I understand what they're going for, but I'm not too sure. And I kind of was paving my own way a little bit, I guess, being like a female power metal singer. I didn't know where to go to find, that inspiration. So I just went to the classics and Bruce Dickinson and Queensryche. Like Jeff Tate really helped me find my metal voice, or a metal equivalent of what I can do. And then was Lost Horizon for sure. The second, I think it was actually Andrew and Grant, who are now, at the time they were in a different band, but they were the ones that introduced me to Lost Horizon, and they were like, oh, Britt, you should, you could totally do this. And that was really the turning point when I was like, okay, got it.
Nice.
Yeah. So
with the other project, just kind of trusting your gut a little bit and not feeling that right. Like, it might not have been right for that situation, but it was right for you to move forward, and that can like lead to your growth.
Yeah, exactly. It was all, they're all great people and they were writing great music, and it was really cool and it was super fun. It was my first time, ever being in that sort of band atmosphere. But I also didn't feel like I had, it's not that if they wouldn't have taken my suggestions, if I'd probably thrown them out there or whatever, but I also didn't feel like I had too much control over the writing process. It was more like it was the guitar player and the keyboard player, very much so, and the drummer, I guess, were really kind of the ones in charge. And I just felt kind of like, okay, this isn't the style of music that I'm looking to write, and I'm not in the place to be the person to suggest that we do something else. So I just knew right away that there was no point in sticking around.
Yeah, the most valid thing. I think we all kind of go through like different projects until we're like, okay, you know what, I can stick to this, and actually my voice is heard.
Yeah. I think that's important. I mean,
like,
if that's important to you, then you got to make sure that it's something that you pay attention to. Like, if you feel like you need to be a creative voice, then make sure that you are that. And if you are in a position where you don't care, just hand me my melodies, hand me my lyrics, then that's fine too.
Exactly. I watched another interview of yours where you talk about, I just found it interesting because that's what I relate to a lot of the time, is where you talk about being in choir and them always making you an alto.
Because there's never enough altos.
Yeah, and I was like, that was my entire experience. I was like, I just want to sing the melody. I don't know.
I know, right? And you know, it's funny because I was always that way, like especially in around Christmas time when you do all the Christmas carols and stuff, like traditional Christmas carols, and you never get to sing the melody. You're always singing like the weird harmony that goes along with it, and you're like, can I just sing Hallelujah with everybody else, you know? But no, you don't get to do that, because if you can sing low, then that's where you get put, because there's a lot of sopranos out there.
But I understand.
Yeah, and it's shaped Again, it shaped me as a vocalist. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but would you say that you've grown in your confidence doing this for so many years now in this project? In your stage presence, in your recording, very much that you are a very confident person, but you know, I think we all kind of struggle in the beginnings, and then, you know, we figure out our ways, and I'm just curious if you can relate to that in any way.
Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been at home on stage. Like, it's my happy place. It's just everything else in the whole world goes away when you're up there, and nothing else matters. And you know, because of choir, because I'd been doing musical theater my whole life, because I'd been in drama my whole life, and because I was constantly involved in community projects and things like that revolve around theater and music, the stage was came very easily to me. So that I never really had a problem with. But it was definitely the studio that was my big hurdle, I guess you could say. I mean, that first record that we did, I had never been this is Behold the Devastation. I had never been in a studio before. I had never even heard myself on a recording like that before, let alone so loud in my ears and so imperfect. And it was just really, oh man, it like takes you back a peg or two, you know. And so that it was just nerve-wracking the whole time, and I tried to get as much emotion into it as possible, but I also, you know, I just didn't have the technique to be able to sing really powerfully, really emotionally, and in key in front of a microphone when there wasn't a whole audience in front of me. I just didn't have the strength yet. So I mean, that you can kind of hear the potential in that record, but it's just, you know, it's always going to be kind of like, whenever I listen back to it, you know. And I learned in the studio that I have a really bad problem with sibilants, so my S's are really S-y. It was really funny because that was back in the day before the de-esser plugin existed, and so I literally had to do the whole album with instead of S's. So I had to change all my words to be a sound instead of an S. So there was that when I was dealing with that in the studio, as well as trying to perform well and sing in key and, you know, have any sort of emotional performance.
Yeah, you're giving yourself a list just to like be able to record.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, it went as well as it could, but then for Demons, I still just didn't have that same confidence. You know, I got in there and I was like so excited, and then I can't remember if it was who it was that was recording me. I think it might have been Stu. No. Oh, anyways, we're kind of like not a big fan of auto-tune. So I was like, oh, so we're not going to auto-tune anything. And it was like, yeah, no, we want to try and get every take as perfect as possible. So it was just like this huge focus on tune. Literally, now, I don't know if anybody else can hear it, but I sure can. There is zero emotion in my voice on that whole record because I was just trying so hard to do it perfectly, you know, and just so frustrating. And so after that, the next one, then I was like, screw this, you know, I'm gonna just go all out. And that was when I really started to figure out I warmed up for like 2 hours before every session, and I would just be in like the perfect shape before I'd get in there, because where you're lacking in confidence, definitely I could make up for it in technique. And I knew that for sure by then. So it was like, I don't trust that I can do it, but my body's going to do it without me. I'm psychologically not present, but that's okay. So just got better and better the more I did it, really. And like a lot of things for people, that's the way it'll work for you as well. My thing was the studio. It took forever. It took 3.5 records.
Then to now, that's like 2009 to 2017. Like that's a long period of like playing live shows, getting in the swing of things. Like, and I think people just want to be like masters at everything immediately, and we don't always like take a second and be like, okay, no, this takes time. Like the people that I'm inspired by worked years and years, and we weren't always, like I've said before, like we're not always sharing everything, or they weren't. It's easy for it to look like it's overnight. Especially like older heroes for sure. It's like, it's so easy to be like, why am I not this good? Like immediately, clearly that's not the case.
No, it never is. And I don't understand this whole obsession with overnight successes. And it's because it's like, it's not, they were playing crappy bars a long time before that record probably hit the #1 or whatever, you know what I mean? And I just love it when people are like, like Adele was an overnight success. She came out of nowhere, blah, blah. It's like, no, absolutely not. She was playing the shit bars for a long time before anything happened. Why does everyone think that it's so great? The part that we should be respecting about her is the fact that she did it for 15 years without nobody even noticing or caring, and she kept going, and now she's finally got what she, the recognition that she deserves. So yeah, I don't think that overnight success is a compliment or something that anyone should be striving for ever.
Now, as a vocalist, I feel like whenever I do these interviews, I can relate more to Vocalist just because that's what I strive for. But like for me, I find I'm a lot harder on myself than I find other musicians can be. And I think that's more possibly just because it's coming from you. Like it's everything. It's, emotion, it's all those things, but it's also your body. And when that fails you, it can make you feel like you're not so much in control. So I'm just curious if you get like that before shows or anything, and what you would tell yourself maybe even a few years ago about that.
It's true. It does suck when you know that your body's not in where it needs to be, and oh man, how many times, especially like even just on this last tour, just things were not working out, and I would have like 20 minutes to warm up before we got on stage, and I would just be like, why am I doing this to myself? You know that you need more than that. Like the fact that it's totally your body, there's nothing else that can fail. Like you can't blame it on your tuner, or oops, I accidentally turned my pedal off or whatever. There's nothing but between you and the instrument. So yeah, you just have to kind of understand that and always put yourself first. I mean, if I could tell myself anything, I guess it would just be, I've kind of always just told myself the same thing. Like since the very beginning, since we first started, and we had a lot of people that were like, oh, you guys are doing something kind of different. That's cool. Like super good on you. Like can't wait to see what, you guys do in your career. There was the exact same amount of people that were being super supportive or being like, oh, no. Girls can't sing power metal. What are you doing? Or your music sucks. Or like, I loved it till the girls started singing, or all that stuff was right at the beginning. And it's always been that way. And so right from the very get-go, I always said, my mantra was, fuck you, fuck your opinion. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. I'm going to do what I do. And if they don't like it, that's their thing. I don't care. And that's seriously been what I've told myself before I get on stage every time for the last, whatever it is, 13 years that we've been a band. So you just kind of have to stop caring about anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
Which sounds totally horrible and narcissistic, but
getting on a stage, like you're putting yourself really out there. You're laying out all your emotions, all these stories that you've like written and everything. Like you kind of have to like protect yourself a little bit, Yeah. Because people are always going to have opinions, and it means nothing about, you necessarily.
Oh no, absolutely no. It's not even necessarily. It just means nothing. They just have their own shit that they're projecting onto you. Just don't ever, like, that's why I don't read comments. I don't give a crap about YouTube. I don't care about any of that stuff. I never ever have, because I've known right from the beginning that no one else's opinion is what counts at the end of the day. And it's funny because sometimes Scott will read a couple good ones to me and be like, oh, listen to this one, and he'll be like, that chick sucks so hard, blah blah blah, and we'll just have a laugh or whatever, because it's like obviously just a keyboard warrior in his mom's basement or whatever you want to tell yourself to, you know, to make yourself feel better about it. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, freaking Rob Halford making the comment. His opinion just doesn't matter.
Would you say that like big stages or small stages are your favorite to play?
I'm sure that this is like going against everyone, but I love the big stages. I love running around. I want to touch every corner of that audience. And if I'm on a tiny little stage, it's really hard to move, and I like to move. I mean, I like intimate venues. I mean, I'm sure playing an arena would be really messed up, where the crowd is like 6 meters away from you, and you know what I mean? There's nobody close enough to like really eyeball. I don't know if that's probably not very enjoyable. As long as I can see everybody, but I still have room to dance around and headbang without getting my hair caught in Andy's headstock. That's
never happened before.
You know,
never.
Right? Oh, some really, really bad ones. Yeah.
Now you deal with a decent amount of the business aspect of your music as well, right? Like not only a performer, but you're running around making sure stuff happens.
Yep.
Promoting, doing all the fun stuff that this industry is as well.
Yes. You could call it that.
Yeah. How much stress does that put on you during a show, or how much did it in the past? By the time I hit the stage, I didn't even really have time to think. And like it takes maybe about 5-10 minutes before I can get to the mindset that I need to be in the green room or whatever, to being as lively as you are on stage. Is there a shift that needs to happen?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It still happens because I still do a lot of the stuff, right? So yeah, even just on this last tour, like I said, I had 20 minutes to get to warm up because I was doing other stuff, getting something else organized. You know, something was missing from this or that or the other or whatever. So I was the one that was running around doing it, and it totally sucks. And I would like, honestly, I can't remember what it was. It was the first show in Mesa, Arizona. We had issues with the InEar Break. Who's the one that troubleshoots that? That's me. So I'm having a total freak out, like busting around trying to figure everything out. We've only got line check because everyone arrived late to the venue. And so we got 10 minutes to line check and we're on. And if we go over that, we're cutting into our set. So that means that our fans get less music. So we're just like running around like idiots, and we finally figure it out. But by that time, I'm so stressed that my voice is just, it's like totally screwed. Because stress is like the worst thing for your vocal folds. Like seriously the worst. It just dries you right out. I'm getting remnants of that feeling right now just thinking about it. I hate it. And so it's absolutely sucks. Like you need seriously an hour before a show of zen, of like, don't talk to me, just gonna warm up and whatever, do my makeup and hang out, and anything more than that, it's detrimental for sure. It just destroys you.
People don't really, think about the mindset that you need to be in to be on stage. And, we go through a lot in your mind before you do something, small or big.
Yeah, I can't remember what, I think it was Armstrong a couple years back. And whoever was doing like the stage sound or whatever just wasn't understanding how our rig worked and was trying to like redo everything. And I was just like, no. I was like, just stop. And then finally I was just so mad that I just was like, get away from it. And I was like, fuck. And I just did it. I was like, bam, 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 did it all myself. And I was like, okay, like just, you should have listened to me an hour ago, and I was so fucking mad. And I stepped up on that stage and I was just like, whoa! And like, it wasn't stress, it was anger. And then afterwards, a lot of people that have seen this play a lot were like, were you maybe a little angry when you got up on stage tonight? And I was like, I was so angry. I was like, I just wanted to rip Solid's face off. And they're like, we could tell you performed amazingly well. They're like, it was so energetic and just like, oh my God, I thought you were going to tear me apart. And I was just like, oh, okay, so like I should be angry when I go on stage more often or something? I don't know. Like the one time when maybe it would have been okay. to not be in the right frame of mind when you got up on stage, when you're so angry that you perform the songs with so much, whatever. That's it. That's the only time.
I didn't segue this at all, but it was popped into my head. How often do you rehearse?
Oh,
like ish, like you don't have to give me a schedule.
Well, that's just it. We don't really have a schedule anymore. Andy lives on the island, so we get together like before we tour. That's pretty much it. And the rest of the time, it's just like Scott and I will be in the jam spot because that's where his drums are. So he'll go play around on the drums and I'll sing along. We have like backing tracks that we can use in our in-ear monitors. Yeah, for the most part, it's usually just Scott and I in there a couple nights a week, maybe. When we're ramping up for something, we should be right now, but I don't know what's going on. Scott's in there like 4 or 5 times a week, and I probably go in like 2 or 3 before we go on tour. It's probably like a month of at least Scott and I being in there every night for sure.
Yeah, like heavy rehearsals for people that aren't in this. And sometimes people think that like you guys just show up, you do your thing, and it's like, no, we work really freaking hard to get this.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you hear about bands that just like jam twice before they play like a big festival, and you can tell.
Yeah, right. So what was it like signing with Napalm?
I mean, it was great, and it was also like, oh, do we really want to do this? Because at the time we were just starting to really grow. Yeah, we had Time Stand Still almost pretty much completely written. We had the music videos done for it and everything, and it was, we were really excited about it, and we actually called it Time Stand Still because it was like we finally were just like, screw it, we're gonna just do it on our own. We're gonna stop even giving a crap about labels. We're not just gonna we didn't send any demos out for that album. We just were like, we don't care. Whereas before it would always be like do the old mail out thing every time and demo versions and all that sort of stuff, and we just were like, no, not doing it, don't care. And then Napalm came knocking and we were like, just when we had like finally mentally dedicated ourselves to being an independent band, they were like, hey, you guys want to send us any demos that you have? And we were like, fine, we do happen to have some demos and some music videos and
you mean this?
And an album. And okay, where do we sign? It was difficult though, because we knew that we were just kind of starting to see some success, and our albums were doing well on CD Baby and all that sort of stuff, and so it was kind of like, well, what are we giving up here? But what are we getting in return was a lot more. So it was definitely it was like an emotional time, but we're definitely happy that we did.
Would you say that touring is hard on the body, easy on the body, a great time?
Oh, well, it depends who you are, I think.
And who you're with.
I mean, we like to party pretty hard, so the boys are giving her every night. I only really give her on night when we have a day off the next day, but I definitely like to do my best to keep up. So it's like 3 beers deep and I'm loaded though, because I have zero tolerance. So I'm always like, yeah, party! Other than that, I really have to be careful and try not to be hungover. But it is very hard on the body. And you really, as a musician, you learn if touring is the thing for you quite quickly. If you can't handle being away from home, being away from all of your comforts, being away from the food that you like, from your couch, from your movies, whatever it is that you enjoy doing at home, if you can't handle doing that for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, who knows, depending on how hard you want to go, you figure it out, and then you just don't ever tour ever again. But then there
also a super valid way to make music.
Totally. Session players are session players often for a reason, because they want to fly down to the studio, have a nice place to stay while they play their music, get paid, go home. There's nothing wrong with that. And then there's those that are like touring masters, that are touring session players, and so that's all they want to do. They get hired for every band, and they are constantly on the road. Like Nick, the guy who's been playing bass for us, he was on like 6 tours in between our 2018 US tour and then this last one. And it was just like, how long were you, like, how you spent how many days at home last year? Like, it was pretty crazy. So you really gotta learn how to take care of yourself. Like, I know that I always go to bed before everybody else, and I sleep later than everybody else, because I just I'm the kind of person that needs a lot of sleep, and I get into the sleeping rhythm pretty quickly. I have no issues whatsoever with being up at 4 and staying up till 4. That's kind of like, it's like prime Brittney time. I like have a whole vitamin regime that I have, so I'm constantly like, because I'm rarely awake during the day, I'm like popping vitamin D and vitamin C, and I got oil of oregano and echinacea and, you know, all that sort of stuff, and just constantly try to take care of myself. But yeah, it's definitely harder for a vocalist because your body is your instrument, and so you can't really be too hungover the next day, whereas the rest of the boys kind of can. Sometimes you have like party tours where you just like the whole bus is like on board for giving her, and sometimes you have kind of where we're the only ones that are like, what's everybody doing? Like, oh, going to bed? Oh, okay, well, party in our room, you know, like.
No, Corey's finally having vitamins for the first time, so like,
of course.
Welcome.
What is
Welcome
this? What, are you roofing
I'm like,
me?
it's cheerful. You'll like it. Like, I don't know.
Get him the Flintstones gummies. That'll help.
Can you explain to me what the Matriarch is about? This is me just personally wanting to know.
Okay, like the whole album, the Apex story arc? Or
Yeah,
just
sure.
just her as a character?
But also just her as a character.
Okay, yeah. Well, she was kind of what started it all, actually. I knew I wanted to have a female antagonist. They are just so badass, and there's really nothing scarier than a rampaging woman with a goal, you know, and ultimate power being that goal as well. It just, you know, makes for an even better story. So I knew right away, I was like, okay, this is going to be a concept album, and it's going to have a female antagonist that is so power hungry and evil, and yet so powerful already, and that she's gonna be on this sort of quest for immortality. And then I was like, okay, so then how do I have a protagonist that can stand up to this? You know, like, who could stand in such a powerful woman's way, really? And that's when I came up with the idea for the Immortal, who was our protagonist, our hero, and the idea that he is kind of enslaved, and that he had always been cursed to serve whoever awakens him from his 1,000-year, 100-year, however many years of slumber. It's like, okay, so he serves her, so she has no real fear of him, but he also is insanely powerful, and he's immortal, and he can just kind of do anything, and no one can stand in his way. So there is sort of that little bit of like her saying to herself, you know, I need to be in control of this guy, because if I'm not, he actually maybe potentially could be the end of me. So it's really, yeah, she's just kind of that, I don't know, like, this is a really weird comparison, but like that 80s businesswoman that was so driven in this time when women had really nothing in the world of, you know, business and, you know, that kind of men's world, that kind of thing, the boys club. I just imagine like when one of those women becomes CEO, and they're just so much like working so hard and just kind of had that in their sights for so long that they've just kind of lost track of what they've done to get there, and they're just basically one of the boys, just as big an asshole as the, you know, the guys that she was trying to defeat, kind of a thing. So that was just really where she was, like, what she was inspired by. And also Bavmorda from the movie Willow. So just imagine Bavmorda in like an 80s power suit. I guess is really where it comes from.
And now we're all inside your brain. That's great. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. The whole story was just inspired by those two. The Matriarch is, I mean, like, you have to imagine that she is like super badass, but she's just kind of taking the wrong path. But no sympathy for her, because she just murdered her 4 sons to achieve immortality. Right. So I'm not saying like, oh, she was a human once. Like, no. Yeah. She is a powerful woman, and give her the respect she deserves. She doesn't need your pity. Yeah, basically.
I can speak to myself. Probably a lot of women that want to do music. You're definitely at the forefront of, like, you know, somebody that's inspiring, talented, but and not only for women. You have a very, very powerful voice, and I think that you're just a fantastic vocalist. And I think that there's so many incredible musicians that will come to grow just because of your art. So I really appreciate.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate what you do. And tell your drummer that he's also fantastic.
I don't need to get his ego stroked anymore. I mean, I feel like the whole comparing of women in metal thing just needs to stop. Like, it's like especially like with Nightwish, that whole Tarja or Annette and all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, I guess it's because they were two different eras of the band or whatever you want to do, but just the whole thing needs to stop. There is more than enough room for all women in metal. Like, they all have their own voice. Just let us do what we want to do. Just let us sing metal music. That's it. We're not here to, to be the top spot. And it's like that in like everywhere for women. There can only be one female contractor in the whole city. There can only be one female architect on the the board, whatever, that kind of thing. Exactly.
What?
Yeah, and then that breeds this horrible, like, sort of mindset of us competing against one another, and it's like, oh, there's only one spot, I want it to be me, and it's like, no, if you get up there, you got the power to bring everyone up with you. That's what it's all about, and so that's, like, I have never ever had a problem with telling other girls or women that have reached out to me and said, how do you do this, where did you get, anything that they've ever asked me, and guys too, like, any question they ever have about how we got here, what we've done, anything, I always answer, and I tell them absolutely everything that I can, because it's not a competition, and not just about who's the best female vocalist, you know what I mean? Like, it just, sure, all those polls and stuff, whatever, they're never gonna go away. Who cares? And like,
it's just important we don't internalize them.
Yeah, and don't it's not like that. There is room for everybody to all be at their own spot, doing their own thing, and there's no such thing as a winner. There's no such thing as the one spot. We need to lift each other up, not put each other down, not just sort of engage in this competitiveness that people sort of force upon us in a lot of ways. And you know what? The other thing, I was actually talking to a guy that was doing like a women in metal like thesis, PhD thing. I was like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. And he said, what's something that you've just noticed or whatever about the female fronted scene versus the male fronted scene? And I was like, well, a lot of times I'll see someone says, oh no, I don't like female fronted metal, and it's like, okay, why? And it's like, well, and like, it's obvious that they listened to this one band and they were like, oh, I don't like that, I'm never listening to a female fronted band ever again. It's like, oh, okay, so you don't like Angra, so you're never going to listen to male fronted metal again, are you? Oh, I don't like male fronted metal, I didn't like this one band, they were just so bad, I don't like what? Why does that happen with women? Why would you listen to one female vocalist and be like, no, not for me, never again? Like, what? I just don't understand it. It's boggling my mind right now. Like, okay, so I don't like, I don't know, name someone's voice. I don't like freaking Corey from Slipknot's voice. I don't like his singing voice. So I'm never listening to men in metal ever again. Who would say that? Nobody would say that about a male vocalist.
No, never. Ever.
So that's one of the ones that I just like, when I made that realization, I was just like, oh, everyone needs to just die that has ever said that. I'm like, what?
Well, it's silly, but like,
really, when you put it into words like that, when you say it out loud, it is so messed up. Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. I've actually never heard that compared that way, but yeah, that's exactly how it feels too when you hear it, especially being a woman. You're like, and you don't have the right like things to say. You're like,
at the time, we're just like, thank you. What? Female drummers or whatever? You're my favorite female drummer. It's like, why do I have to be described before you can say that I'm your favorite drummer? Why don't you say I'm one of your favorite drummers? It's like, I like all 17 of these dude drummers and then this one girl drummer. We don't need to be set apart. We don't care. You like 18 drummers. Yeah, and I'm one of them, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
you like our skill and our art, and that is awesome, and that's like, all that you need.
Would you walk up to a guy and be like, "You're my favorite male drummer"?
From this point on, I'm gonna do that.
Yes, please do.
Just for fun.
I just would love to see the look on their face. Because it's going to be exactly the way that we look when someone says, you're my favorite female vocalist. Why are we in a category? It's like fish, 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 orange fish, 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 fish. Whatever.
Whatever, man.
Well, we will help the world to not think of us as some weird entity that is
One day.
one at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah.
I'm working on Insecurity right now. let me deal with
Well,
the
why
rest.
do you think it
later.
exists? It's especially
for
hard
sure.
for us because
It is.
we go up on stage and we're not just like graded on our skill level like men are. We're graded on what does our clothing look like? How do we move on stage? What does our face look like? Are you pretty? Oh, are they overweight? Are they, you know what I mean? There's all these other criteria. And guys,
Yeah.
it's like, he's a good singer. I'm down. Cool. Why is that a thing? So yeah, of course there's freaking issues in the female community of vocalists and anything, drummers, bass players, guitar players, all of us. There's a lot. It sucks. But there's no, I mean, you're not going to change the world, right? We just literally have to say to ourselves, who fucking cares what Joe Blow Schmo out there thinks? Doesn't matter.
More people that do it, the more we change the world. That's the way I think about it. It's like the more it becomes commonplace and the more that like, you know, we have women represented equally and just like doing the thing, it becomes fairly normal and eventually that hopefully will go away.
One piece of advice that was given to me a long time ago that I never heeded, and that was, you have a beautiful body, use it. And that was in the beginning when I was still in jeans and t-shirt up on stage, and you know, like, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that, because I just couldn't bring myself to use that when it's what we've been forced to use our whole lives. You know what I mean? I really just wanted it to be about my voice. Like really, really, really. That when it comes down to it, it's always been what I want people to be basing their opinion on whenever they hear us, whenever they watch us. Always. I think that's another aspect of it as well, is that it's kind of like we feel like we can't just be singers. We have to be sex symbols. We have to, you know what I mean? Like butcher babies. Those girls put it all out there. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just what they chose to do. And it worked, but it must kind of hurt when people are like, oh yeah, no, I'm just watching for the titties. It's just like, but those chicks, man, they got talent. They can scream. They are so tough and they sound rad. And yet there's just this whole contingent of people that, you know, they don't care. It just sucks.
Well, that's one thing I struggle with all the time. It's like, I've worked with people in the past that like, you know, I start working with them and then it turns into this weird like thing of like, oh, they just wanted to sleep with me. Yeah. Or like, and just like this, I hate the fact that this is part of this. Like guys can get together and jam and there's never that concern, but I have to actively be like, hey man, we're not sleeping together though. Like I just want to make this really clear. I just want to be in a jam space. Like that's it. And like, that's not something that even is a question generally. In those situations, and like it's just like another hurdle that's just not fair. And also like, I am a female, I like my body, I don't hate it, and I'm cool to like, you know, be comfortable in it, but for sure, but I don't think that I want my entire brand to be about that. I want it to be about my skill level and my craft, and that comes first.
But there's also, but it's like the opposite side of that is that if you do choose to use it, torn down for it, and it's like
or it's even just a talking point, like in general, right?
Like who cares if you like? Yeah, if you want to show off your skin, that it should be allowed to do that. Why do dudes play with their shirts off all the time? You know what I mean? And there's entire bands where their whole shtick is that they wear tight leather pants and no t-shirts, and no one seems to give a crap about that. Oh, that's the shirtless band, You know, no one cares, and yet so like, it's just like no matter what we do, we're damned if you do, damned if you don't, basically.
Essentially. So, women in music, let's do it. Everyone join. Let's go.
Everybody come in and hang out with this totally messed up industry that makes you feel like shit about yourself, and then, you know, like also instills all this great woman-powered stuff, and I don't know.
And it really, allows for confidence in other ways. It's weird. It's a weird industry, man. It's a weird one, and I'm just near the beginning of it, and I'm like,
I think honestly, the biggest thing I could say is that nothing matters except the way that you feel and how you love your craft or not. If you're in love with what you're doing right now, if you feel like you're taking the right path, or that you're doing it the way you want to do it, or you're happy with how it's going, that's all that matters. Nobody else, no one's opinion at the end of the day matters. And seriously, you can say to people, can you tell me what you think of this song? Or I just want to know if you think this part is cool or whatever, and you want to hear it, that's good. You got to be open to that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you decide that your opinion, that you were right, and that they told you to change something and whatever, and you're just kind of like, no, I really liked that part, then do it, because you take home what you've done, and that's it. And you have to live with it, and you deal with it, and you listen to it every day, you know what I mean? So just seriously, number one, no one else's opinion matters.
I'm gonna have to get some vocal warm-ups from you at some point, because I need to work on my range and pretty much everything. I need to work on everything. So thank you for doing this. And